Hi, this is Mr. Shumway. This video clip explains how to find a midpoint between 2 points on a coordinate system. For example, the point 3, 4 and 9, 8. So let's do it graphically. 3, 4, 9, 8. So if we wanted to try to find, let's just look at the x direction, for example, right here. How far is that going from 3 to 9? Well, to find that, we could say, well, 9 minus 3 is 6. So the distance there is 6. You can count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So half of that would be 3. So if I was at 3 and I go 3 more, I will be at 6. So I'm at 3 and I go 3 units halfway towards the other one. That gets me to 6. Well, let's do that same thing in the y direction, going from 4 to 8. That's a distance of 4. Half of that is 2. So if I'm at 4 and I go 2 units towards 8, then I will be at 6. So if I go over to 6, 6, I think you can see from that that looks like it's halfway in between those two original points. So the midpoint there, here's the x direction and here's the y direction. So written as a coordinate, I would put 6, 6 would be the midpoint between those 2 points. Okay, so let's do another one. So let's do, in the x direction, let's do 5 minus 2. So the distance between the 2 points in the x direction is 3. Half of 3 is 1.5. So if I'm at 2 and I go 1.5, 1.5 units towards 5, that will be at 3.5. That's the x. Now let's do the y. 8 minus 3 is 5. Half of 5 is 2.5. And if I am at 3 in the y direction and I go 2.5, whoops, 2.5 towards 8, then I will be at 5.5. So this is my x, this is my y. So let's go to 3.5. Well, here's 3, and here's 4, so if I go halfway in between, and then in the y direction we have 5 and 6, 5 and 6, so halfway in between those, so we think the midpoint is right there. Well, let's plot the other 2 points to see if it looks like it's right. Over 2 up 3, over 5 up 8. Does that point look like it's right in the middle? Well, if I go down 2.5 and back 1.5, down 2.5, back 1.5, it looks right. So here's one at -6, -2. So I go back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and down 2. So he's going to be right, oops. He's going to be right there, more or less. And 2, 4, be right there, more or less. So somewhere in the middle, well, let's do the distance between -6 and 2. Well, if I say 2 minus -6, that is the same as saying 2 plus 6, which is 8. So the distance between -6 and 2 is 8. Half of that distance is 4. I mean, half of that distance is 4. Let's do half of 8 is 4. So if I'm at -6 and I go 4 units towards 2, then I will only be at -2 now. And if I go to, in the y direction, I'm at from -2 going towards 4. So if I say 4 minus -2, that's the same as 4 plus 2, which is 6. So the distance is 6. Half of that distance is 3. So if I'm at -2 and I go 3 units, whoops, -2 and I go 3 units towards 2, then I will be at 1. That's the y direction. So here's my x, here's my y. So we think it's -2, comma 1. So let's go ahead and plot -2, comma 1 and see if that looks right in between this one and this one. So yeah, it looks that way. And mathematically it would indicate that we are at -2 comma 1 is the point that's halfway in between those two. It's in the middle. Middle. Let's do a couple more. Two comma 4, 8 comma 2. Well, the distance in the x direction is 6. Half of that would be 3. So if I'm at 2 and I go 3 units, that will get me to 5. And in the y direction, that's 2. Half of that would be 1. So if I'm at 4 and I go, well, if I'm at 2 and I go 1 towards 4, then I will be at 3. So we think that we have a 5 comma 3. Let's check it out and see if it looks like it's in the middle. 5 comma 3. Yep, that's right in the middle of those 2 points. -3, 3. And 7, 8. Okay, so the distance from here to here is 10. So if I said 7 minus -3, that's the same as 7 plus 3, which is 10. Half of that is 5. So if I'm at -3 and I go 5 units, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I will be at 2. Another way to think of that is -3 plus 5 is 2. Okay, so let's do that same thing in the y direction. 8 minus 3 is 5. Half of 5 is 2.5. If I'm at 3 and I go 2.5 towards 8, that will be at 5.5. So I have a 5 and a 5.5. Over 5 and up 5.5. So right there. Does that look right? Well, if I go up 1, 2.5, up 1, 2.5, yep, looks good.